Hello vinyl community, I'm back again for another Tales of the Deadwax. This time, as you could tell from the title and also from the intro, I am covering the legendary George Peckham, who is definitely one of the masters. George has had a very fascinating history. Just a few facts about George. He was in 3 different bands as a guitarist. One of those bands just happened to be paired with the Beatles before they broke big. Around 1968 or so, George got a gig working at Apple Records cutting acetates for the Beatles. And his relationship with the Beatles continued into the 70s when they were doing solo records. He's cut some of the biggest names out there, at least in the UK anyway. Genesis, Led Zeppelin, just to name a few. There is a link to a website that I'm going to include down below that kind of has him telling his history with Apple Records. One of the things that I did learn from reading about some of the work he did with the solo Beatles was he did the cuts of George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. Now, it's claimed he did the North American cuts. Now, this, I think, might be a second press or a first press. Mine didn't have any signature from George, which was very unique. He did some interesting things with John Lennon and some of his singles, which is noteworthy. But for North America, what he is predominantly known for is this album here, Led Zeppelin 4. So Led Zeppelin 4 was released probably 4 or 5 times in the 70s. In different years. Now, if you have a early cut, what you're going to look for is Pecco Duck, Pecco, or Porky in the Deadwax like I'm showing you here. That's an indication that you have an early cut. Now, when you start to get to 76, 77, that's when the Porky cuts start to get phased out. Now, this is an early Monarch pressing that I managed to acquire. How do I tell it's Monarch? And this is going to be like a subject of a whole nother video. Is Atlantic Records, in their matrix code on the label, they would annotate it most of the time with who pressed it. So Monarch, like I'm showing you here, has an MO, and you will also see an MR with a circle on it. Now, this sounds just fantastic. I have another copy here, which was done by Specialty Records. I have several different cuts of this album from the 70s, but I just happened to grab the Specialty Records cut. Now, this was done, this is a non-Porky, probably done around 76, 77. Now, Specialty Records, you will see SR on the label. You will also see an S with an R and a C. So if you see an S and an R and a C, that's an indication it was cut by Specialty Records, and they cut for more than just Atlantic. So folks are aware. Monarch was on the East Coast. Specialty, I think, was in New Jersey. Monarch was in California, I want to say. But now, there is a sonic difference. Originally, I did not want to play Led Zeppelin 4 because everybody knows this album. And if you don't know this album, you must be living on the moon or under a rock. So, but anyway, I want to give you a sample of the sonic difference between the two, and you will, hopefully for most of you out there, will hear the difference, and that the Porky just seems to have a lot more air to it. So another rarity, at least in North America, is AC/DC's Let There Be Rock. So we happen to get Porky to do the lacquer cuts here, and this just sounds fantastic. And you will see a Porky prime cut in the actual Deadwax of this album, like I'm showing you here. I'm not going to play you a sample because everyone knows AC/DC quite well. Next up is a UK original. This one was never released in North America as far as I'm aware of, and I'm a fan of this band. Never been a fan of their the band's name, but it's Budgie, and this is Bandolier. This is just fantastic hard rock. This band just happened to inspire many a band out there, and this happens to be one of my favorites in their catalog. Here you're going to see Pecco and a Porky prime cut in the Deadwax, like I'm showing you here. And if you're not familiar with Budgie, let me play you a couple of cuts off this one. So another one that we do have in North America, off the Swan Song label that was run by Led Zeppelin. In fact, this band credits Led Zeppelin and their manager Peter Grant in the credits, like I'm showing you here. And it is the Pretty Things. And if you don't know Aural Retentive, go check out his channel because he is on a quest to get all the Hypnosis covers. This is one of those covers that was done by Hypnosis, and they did several Zeppelin's covers, and they did this Pretty Things Savage Eye cover. This is this is hard rock. It has some acoustic tracks to it. It's really not a bad album at all, and of course this has Pecco and a Porky prime cut in the Deadwax. So what does this one sound like if you're not familiar with the Pretty Things? Here you go.
There is nothing you need show me here, just as long as you know me.
Now this this is the album I want to show, so I got a UK original of this one, and this has explicit Deadwax. So if you're not into explicit imagery, turn it off here. The album is Alien Sex Fiend, the It album, and this has some of George Peckham's best handiwork. I mean, I would love to get more UK originals where he wrote something creative in it, but he did something special here, and let me show you. So he had some creative stuff in the Deadwax. So he had Always Something Festering. He had This Record Will Self-Destruct in 5 to 8 or 58 seconds. There's Hubble Bubble, Toil and Treble. And To McGee, Hello from George. Okay, whatever that means. Alien Sex Fiend, they were kind of Alice Cooper influenced, kind of proto industrial in a way. I enjoyed them. They're very theatrical. Here's a couple clips for you. So that was George Peckham for you. So if you have Porky, Pecco Duck, a Porky Prime cut in your Deadwax, sonically you should be getting a good record. Do you have any Porky cuts in your collection? I'd be curious to know. Are there any more good North American records where he did the lacquers for? Please let me know, because I'm always on the hunt for a good Porky Prime cut. And just one other thing to drop here. There is a wonderful YouTube video. It's lower quality, but it's 10 minutes long, and it just shows George getting into the music. I highly recommend it. I'll include a link down below, and I'll catch you next time.